Hi guys, I'm Karis Johns, licensed psychotherapist, and today I want to talk about betrayal blindness, collective trauma, and why I got into the psychotherapy business in the first place. Well, I want to start by just sharing a little bit more about who I am and why I do what I do. I originally became completely absorbed with the idea of psychology and social psychology specifically because I learned early on. Well, first of all, I was like 21 when 9/11 happened, so I was old enough to kind of put some pieces together right away. I'm not saying I was awake, but maybe more awakened. I got into the study of psychology and social psychology because I wanted to understand the social mechanisms of control and the ways in which our society was shaping humans to behave in a certain way. It's fascinating to me. I think it's central to my understanding of reality is to understand that culturally we live in this grand psyop, I guess, for lack of a more glamorous term. I feel that we live in a depressogenic, anxiety-inducing, but most of all trauma-inducing culture. And I believe that's on purpose. And now is the time that we need to collectively wake up from that trauma response, to be even more specific. Several years ago, a very large scale psyop was foisted upon the world, and so many fell for the implications and took in misinformation and misguided information and then made medical decisions based on that to their detriment. That kind of stuff is not new, and it's not going to stop. And so this is very much related to what I hear a lot of talk about in the community learning about narcissism nowadays. This phrase called betrayal blindness, okay? Betrayal blindness is a phenomenon that takes place when you have been abused over and over again, and your only survival strategy at a certain point becomes to align with your captor. And among therapists who work with those who've been victimized by narcissists or those who experience symptoms of narcissism, they talk about betrayal blindness as a way of the person who has been victimized by this dynamic to shield themselves from the reality of those betrayals. And you're probably thinking, but why would they do that? Wouldn't it make more sense to shield themselves from the actual betrayal? Why build some sort of psychological mechanism to keep yourself safe from the truth instead of just keeping yourself safe? Fascinating, right? Sad, right? Okay, so here's what we all need to understand right now. Betrayal blindness is not exclusive to the community of victims of narcissism. Betrayal blindness is what is keeping us all culturally stuck in a fawn response among institutions and organizations, structures that are harming us. Okay? And we all need to realize that the collective trauma responses that we all have those have been put there on purpose to harm us, because we are more moldable and shapeable and pliant as a citizen group when we have been traumatized over and over and over again. Are you starting to see why the world is suddenly fascinated by the idea of narcissistic personality disorder? I mean, it's everywhere. You're on YouTube right now. You can see it. It's because our world is now ripe to birth the awareness that this is a collective experience, and it's not just happening amongst individuals who find themselves in relationships with individuals who experience narcissistic traits or high conflict traits. This is stuff we're all going through on a collective level. Our systems and structures can be thought of as possessing these same qualities and characteristics that are hallmarks of the personality structure of narcissistic personality disorder. Okay? So if you want to go and dive into that material on YouTube, I say have at it, even if you've never been in a narcissistic relationship or think you haven't, because you have. You're in one right now with your culture, with your government, with your organizations, with your failing institutions that are now on their way out, who are now flailing more than ever, if you've noticed. That's what things do when they're drowning, right? They flail around and they take everything down around with them because they're in panic mode. But we, as a collective humanity, are no longer going to be in panic mode. Because together we're having these kinds of conversations. And we are going to choose to heal our frazzled nervous systems, individually and collectively, as a result of these beautiful conversations. And by the way, you're taking part in right now. So thank you. This is what it can look like to wake up from the slumber of our own collective trauma and witness the dying of an old regime. But in order to do that now, we have to become awakened to concepts like betrayal blindness, because things like that are keeping us locked into those old ways of being. But together, it'll be safe and okay for us to look deeply at the harms that have been done to us as a result of those structures and institutions that we may have outgrown at this time, that we've definitely outgrown. So in this fun conversation, I love the way that we've been able to reflect on the ways that the microcosm reflects the macrocosm. And I hope that that will be fuel for thought for you. And I'm so curious if you have your own experiences of this concept related to narcissism, either for yourself as an individually, or if you are now starting to sense too that maybe this is kind of the waters that our world, our culture swims in. And it might be getting worse every day with the advent of things like social media. Rampant narcissism on the rise, but so are we collectively. And for that, I would thank you. And if you've had those kinds of experiences and want to contribute to the conversation, please do so. Drop a comment, certainly like and subscribe, and stay tuned. And I just love that we're going to keep this conversation going. Until then, bye.